We are down in the Boon Docks in Panama City Beach at Boon Docks Restaurant, and this week the 16th annual Seabreeze Jazz Fest is going on, and we're fortunate enough to be talking with some of the people that are going to be entertaining. We have Mindi Abair and Jim Peterik, and Mindi is celebrating a brand new album, which is called?
It's called Wild Heart, and it comes out next month, but we're here, and I got the records in the mail, and I brought them here.
All right.
And the record company doesn't really know. I'm sure they'll be happy about it, but I took them, and we're going to sell them at the show here tomorrow, and it'll be fun. But, you know, you get a new CD, you have to love it, and you have to bring it around, and you have to give it to everyone and, and put out the new music. It's a very exciting thing.
Now, this is your 8th solo CD, right?
It is, correct.
Yeah.
And you'd think you'd be tired of it after 8, but I'm so not. It really amazes me to this day every time I record a record, and you know, you spend so much time. He and I wrote many songs for it. 2 of them made it onto the record, and you know, there's 11 songs on the record. They're all so close to my heart that, you know, to actually get this out and to make it public after working on it for so long, it's like giving birth.
Well,
very exciting.
Your collaborations, though, are amazing. Not only Jim Peterik, but Kebmo, Greg Allman. I mean,
Yeah.
Booker T.
Yeah.
That's a
In
great
fact,
cut.
I have to ask you about how cool did it feel? Because basically that cut is you, Booker T, and drums. How cool did it feel? It felt like there were moments when you guys were just kind of jamming and just kind of grooving, like it was a late night thing going on.
You know what? I mean, I'm a total geek for Booker T. Jones. And I always have been. He's just been one of those artists that I thought from his inception, you know, at 17 years old, writing something like Green Onions.
Yeah.
And making, you know, an instrument, which was the B3 organ, that wasn't in the mainstream, hugely mainstream. I wanted to work with him because I've always felt saxophone was a mainstream instrument at one time. The inception of rock and roll was a huge mainstream instrument with, you know, King Curtis, Junior Walker, Boots Randolph, all these guys that were just kind of, you know, down and dirty sax players. And I wanted his help to kind of bring it back to what I thought saxophone could be. It's not just a jazz instrument. It can be, you know, a real mainstream instrument. So, I mean, to write with him was amazing. And I didn't know what would happen. I went in with a few ideas. I didn't use any of them. And we were set up in this room. My friend owns the Village Recorder in Los Angeles, right? Well, I mean, Rumors was recorded there. All these great, you know, Asia, Steely Dan was recorded there. All these great records. He set us up in this room with ceilings that were like 100-foot ceilings. And this room was kind of cavernous. They record strings there. All we had in this room was a B3 and my sax.
Oh my God.
And everything had this big reverb on it.
Yeah.
So I think what we wrote was really indicative of the surroundings, and we wrote this kind of sexy song. When I went to record it, I tried to put guitar on it. I tried to put bass on it. I tried to put, you know, other keyboards on it, percussion. Nothing felt right. It felt right with me and Booker T.
Yeah.
And that's what we kept it as.
Well, you got it right, as far as I'm concerned. Now,
Thank you.
With Jim Peterik, and Jim, of course, legendary Jim Peterik from the Ides of March. In fact, you guested on the Ides 19 CD, and you were on Jim's Life Force CD. But how did you two meet? Maybe, Jim, you want to tell us how you met Mindi?
Was it the cruise?
Maybe you don't want to tell us.
No, I'll tell you. So we're doing this smooth jazz cruise.
Right.
Okay, and we're leaving. There's 1 million jazz artists on this cruise. And, you know, on the day that you take off, everyone kind of comes up to the one deck, you know, and it's the send-off. You know, we're about to leave port. And they've all got, you know, we've all got our glasses of champagne or whatever it is, like, okay, the send-off. And I'm looking around. I know everyone. I've been in this business a long time. I know all the normal jazz faces. And across the room, I see Jim. Jim is in head-to-toe leather. You know, the big red, you know, skull boots, cowboy boots, and everything.
So he was just wearing his pajamas.
Yeah, he didn't dress up that much for the cruise.
No.
You know, and he's got the purple hair and everything, and he's got scarves on and everything, and I looked across and I was just like, that guy's gonna be my friend. That guy's gonna be the guy that I'm palling around with by the end. I feel it. Like, he's my people. And slowly but surely, we met a couple times on the cruise and talked a little bit, and he invited me to come sit in on Vehicle that he was doing on one of the shows. And I did, and we just became fast friends, and we started writing together. I asked him to write for my CD, and we ended up writing for his CD.
Right.
Yeah,
And
it's all good.
yeah,
Yes, all good.
Love it.
And Slither.
Slither.
I mean, we became a part of each other's lives and became very good friends. And you
we
know,
ate
here we are.
at the griddle.
Oh, he would come to LA. This is the best thing in the world. We'd come to LA, right? And I'm like, okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna eat breakfast at the Griddle, which is this teeny little place in Hollywood. And there's
Right on
almost
Sunset.
right on Sunset. Always a line to get in it. Somehow we never had to wait in line. We were just lucky. We'd go there at like 7:30 in the morning, okay? And he was dressed to the nines. This guy is just like ba-boom. At 7:30 in the morning, we'd eat, bacon, eggs, pancakes, everything.
Pancakes, French toast.
Oh, just, and then go to my house and write. And it would be like an all-day affair. We'd sit on my porch, then we'd move to the,
patio.
To the patio.
That
to
was
the,
my favorite place.
Yeah, no,
That's where
patio's
the
nice.
song "Good" came
Yeah.
together. The lyric.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To my couch, to wherever. Then we take a field trip to a yogurt place or something, and then come back, and So it's always an
That's
adventure to
cool.
write a song together.
Yeah, it really
Yeah,
is.
It's great.
It's neat.
This album almost struck me as being like your fantasy, because you're going in so many different directions.
Yeah.
With some terrific people.
I really didn't want to make a jazz record. I didn't want to make a rock record. I didn't want to make a soul record. I didn't want to make a retro record. I wanted to make a record I was proud of.
Amen.
And I wanted it to be songs that meant something to me, that I wanted to play. And I really took the direction, and we talked about this in the formation of kind of what this record was going to become. I wanted it to have that electricity of live. I was coming off the Aerosmith tour, and they came to the Aerosmith show. I mean, it's sheer electricity. These guys are given like 1,000% the whole show, running around, and their hair is blowing in the breeze, and 50,000 women are screaming, and just sheer rock and roll. I'm like, okay, how do I put this electricity into my career? How do I write songs that I can actually experience this? Because it's awesome every night.
Where you just go
my
to a
band.
zone when you go out on stage and you do these songs.
Because it's so fun. Rock and roll is so fun. There's nothing like it. I mean, some people get that high from playing bebop or jazz.
Right.
It was never what I loved like that. If I could hear loud guitars and the drone of rock and roll, that's my spa day. So why not put that into my career? And well, who better to go to get a little eye of the tiger than Jim?
Jazzy Tiger.
All right, Jazzy Tiger.
Jazzy
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
One of the thoughts I had, though, in listening to the album, it's one thing for a guitar player like Jim to get up and jump around and sing. It's another thing. You're using your lungs when you're playing saxophone. Then you're singing. Does that ever give you a little different kind of like you have to take a different vocal approach? Or how does it impact you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I think sax playing is very similar to singing. I'm really lucky with a saxophone that it's this, metal instrument that kind of amplifies who I am vocally. Because I always wanted to sing like Tina Turner or like Ann Wilson. I wanted that big voice that was just this, big, powerful, just gritty voice. And as a vocalist, I'm not Tina Turner, but you put that piece of metal in front of me and that I can blow through, and I can be Tina Turner.
Amen.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it can be this extension of yourself that makes you better, or makes you different, or makes you be able to emote differently than just your own body.
Right.
So, I go back and forth with playing and then singing. I think, to answer your question, I think that the airflow is much the same. I mean, the support and everything is the same, but what you have to think about is airflow, and that's what I've kind of had to learn how to control. It's like airflow in a saxophone, you're really just push in a lot of air at a very high volume, and with singing you do have to back it off. So there are times that I think like a saxophonist and sing, and I blow out my voice because I'm blowing through it too much, and I'm like, oh, I screwed up. So you do have to think about it somewhat differently, but the breath control and everything, it's all the same animal.
Can I take you in the Wayback Machine for a moment?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd stuck with the piano and not gone with saxophone? Because I found it fascinating to learn that you weren't born with a saxophone in your mouth. Because that's what you seem like. You know, it's so natural. Your dad, a professional saxophonist, but you did start with a keyboard, right?
Did you start with piano?
I did.
Did you? Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I have to say, and I don't know what your answer is going to be, but you get to answer this after me. I've never thought of that. That's
Really?
never occurred to me. And I love playing piano, and I think it's a great instrument, and I use
And you
it to
were good
write.
as a child, too.
I was okay as a child. I wasn't, some prodigy, and I wish I was better at it. But I found the saxophone, and it gave me a passion that the piano didn't necessarily. Like there was a high to playing saxophone that I never got from piano. However, piano I can see and I can feel and I can see chords and I can see changes and shapes that I can write with. And it fills in what I feel as a saxophonist. I'll feel that passion as a saxophonist and hear melodies, but then fill it in, okay, this is what I'm hearing on piano. So thank God I had the piano to kind of fill in that gap, but I never thought twice about actually like being a piano player, and I'm not good enough to be a piano player. I've played it in bands, Backstreet Boys. I toured. I played keyboards and sax and percussion and other bands I've played keyboards in over the years, but not that good. So But what's your answer? What?
Well, I started on piano and I hated it because it was so regimented in the scales and everything. I learned just enough to write a song. That's all I really needed, and intrinsically I knew. And I just said, Mr. Ulrich, your history. And he smelled bad always. Did
he hit your wrists?
No.
I got that.
No, but he wasn't exactly the hippest guy. And but I learned enough.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I discovered the electric guitar. And then all bets were off.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, something as loud and raucous as electric guitar or saxophone, I don't know how you can beat it. At least for my personality, and I know for your personality. But, piano, I was learning all this classical repertoire, and I remember going into my piano teacher and saying, yeah, I didn't love that song. So I learned this Toto song instead.
Yeah.
And she was just, yeah, I learned that one. I did.
Good.
So I'd come in and be like, I liked this rock and roll song, so I learned it. And she was just like, that's not acceptable, and that, I'm like, oh.
That's a bummer. That's a buzzkill.
So it was more fun on sax. I felt like I could kind of be who I was more and use piano for what I wanted it to be.
And Jim, I think in your case, you also realized that it was a little more difficult to grab the piano and run around the auditorium with it.
Yeah,
True.
To me, the piano was a writing tool. And some of my biggest hits were written on piano.
Well, and I love the story of you writing Come Dancing, sitting at the piano in
And
Michigan.
Looking at the willow trees and
just sitting there,
you know,
and it came to you.
It's a great instrument. But when I get on stage, I want to rock.
Yeah.
Jerry Lee Lewis was the only guy that I know that
That's
could
true.
rock
Sing
the
it.
piano.
Well, Fats
Sing it.
Domino. Fats Domino.
yeah,
He can
yeah.
rock it with his tubby.
Excuse me.
Bumping it across the stage like no one
Yep.
else.
He was amazing.
You couldn't do that.
Well, Richard had some fun too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
Well, there are a few.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's the trifecta. Who?
Yeah.
Well, John. Anyway, here we go.
Well, we should remind everybody again, the new album is Wild Heart, and it is available as of May.
May 27th, but we're taking pre-orders on my website, which is MindiAbair.com, and Pledge Music. We're doing kind of a fun giveaway with them that, you can do pre-orders and even order stuff like Skype saxophone lessons, and,
Yeah.
me and my guitarist will come and do a show at your house and that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Dinner with the band and then hang out backstage for the concert. It's kind of
Really?
cool. Oh, yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Kind
We know people. Let's do
A
that.
guitar
Works for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
So go to Mindi's website.
Oh, just before we wrap this up, Mindi, one final question, and I hope this isn't too personal,
Yes.
Okay.
What's the difference?
between a pizza and a saxophone player.
No, that's a drummer joke.
No, it's an accordionist joke, actually.
It's probably been everything. Okay, so I heard it as what's the difference between a pizza,
And
a large pizza,
And
Yeah.
a saxophone player, yes.
and a drummer. Let's put it.
Okay.
A large pizza can feed a family of 4.
But
But I guess you could use it for saxophone. It's probably as good with a
I
saxophone.
think oboe would be better.
I think accordionist wins. Frankly, as an accordion player, I can say that.
well, or the joke that Les Paul told us about the accordion player. There was an accordion player, and he was also a taxi driver. So he
Left it in the back seat.
he had to run in to get somebody, leaves his accordion in the back seat of the taxi, comes out, and there are 9 more accordions in the taxi.
Well, check out Mindi's website and get your hands on her new CD by going to her website. And if she comes to town, be sure to see her.
Thanks so much, Mindi.
Thank you, guys.